it's a skill that I encourage you to harness to know how to call someone stupid without explicitly saying it. I have autism and a genuine care for people, and I love reading books about psychology. I love watching movies from like the era before the like 1970s, let's say, because that's of a time where you couldn't say things outright. You had to find ways to work that into, subtle things. And I always found it fascinating in these old books and movies how a scene could be like, "Ooh, Georgia, that decor is so intriguing. I've never seen anything like it." And then noticing the way they use their facial expressions and their tone and the cadence of their voice to do a very nice way of saying, "Your decor looks fucking terrible." And to like, I also loved looking at like detective shows and movies, good cop, bad cop, looking at like how psychologists and therapists work, and also even people who are manipulative in nature, like cult leaders or just, I don't know, anybody really. And just, it's kind of fascinating to know, like, oh, okay, these are the layers that you can have in a conversation that can encourage someone to silence themselves or to speak up. This is how you elude this is how you elude that. And since I have that skill, I think I've gotten very far in life because of it. And I know you're probably thinking, well, you're literally sitting on your floor right now, just casually recording videos. Like, you shut the fuck up. I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm having a great fucking life and I love it. It helps, especially in times where people are trying to instigate drama and you want to make them look worse than they are, because they usually can do that all by themselves. You don't have to get involved. Sometimes I have gotten in the habit recently of stooping myself to their level, but sometimes I forget you don't even have to do that much. I remember once at my old job at this place called Solely Vegan. It was like a vegan soul food place. The food was fucking terrible. We had this coworker, let's call her Tiffany. She was known to be belligerent as fuck to every single person she worked with. Just like she would be the type of person to call a customer stupid to their face even if she was the one in the wrong. To come up to a table and start mopping it down with bleach even if people were sitting there still eating. Just overall very disrespectful, unhygienic, the type of person to leave every single cup she's ever washed somehow dirtier than it was before she put her hands on it. Just an overall musty stank bitch. Or if I wanted to be nicer about that, I'd say something like she was a very uncouth and belligerent person, and maybe not the best educated with low manners. I remember like once we were opening up and the people who closed left it fucking terribly, and I asked her to do like very simple things and she did none of it. So the next thing you know, guests were coming in and sitting in a restaurant where there was no lights, no music, no, they're like, she was just standing there, hands on her hips. Sorry. So she was just standing there, hands on her hips, just like zoning out. Not folding utensils, not washing cups, not doing a single fucking thing. It's like her job was so easy. Just go up to them and hand them a bottle of water and some utensils. Or do anything. Now, mind you, I had the time. There was already like a solid line, but I asked everyone in line because all three people in line, they said, "Oh yeah, we're not ready yet. We need some time." And so all I did was I simply turned on the lights, went up to a table, said, "Hey, excuse me, would you like some utensils and water?" They said, "Oh, sure." I gave them utensils and water and then cut on the music, and that was that. But the next thing you know, Tiffany started getting angry at me like, "Why are you doing my job? You're supposed to be at the register." I didn't have to say much because I already knew it would upset her. So I just elegantly said, without even looking at her, "Oh, can you go ahead and give people utensils and waters for me?" And then I just walked off. She started screaming her head off so fucking hard, losing her goddamn mind, that it made it easy. All I did was simply type into my fucking phone, like, the girls, like, Tiffany's going crazy. And I just politely ignored her, and every other person in line gave me sympathetic looks of, "I'm really sorry. Oh my god. Oh, she's really like this." And then guess what? It was very easy to get her fucking fired. I didn't have to swear at her, curse at her, nothing. I didn't have to do shit. She made herself look bad. And the best thing you can do sometimes is just let them look bad. Because then it'll make it way more easy to just be like, oh, yeah, Tamia's the one who's always respectful. Tiffany's the one who's always causing a scene, and there's no reason she needed to be acting that way. Yeah, she got replaced. It took a while because the manager was also fucking stupid, but don't worry, I stood up for myself and that's what matters. But also, to talk more about this topic, sometimes I have a good way of getting people to like draw certain conclusions. It's like a manipulative quality, but it's not an inherently bad one. You can use it for good. If anything, that's why I usually am tending to have friends with people who have anger issues, because let's say you're in a situation with someone and they're being hostile and belligerent. But if you have me around, I'm going to be able to talk whoever you're talking to out of their asshole mindset and behavior. I remember in high school, I was friends with this girl named Shazia. And in a nutshell, she went to the front office because she needed some important paperwork to get her service dog to school. I believe I hard to tell if it was a service dog or not. All I know is that it barked at black people and wasn't exactly the friendliest thing. She came to the office and was like, "Hi, I need some papers," and she said something, and but she said it decently politely. She was like, "Hi, I need some papers. I came in here yesterday for the adoption papers and to get my service dog to school." And then this very tart, rude, sour old lady was like, "Oh, you're the girl with the dog." And then like she obviously was making like trying to instigate some shit, and I noticed that. I tried to calm to Chizia. I was like, "Let me handle this," but Chizia already started popping off. She was like, "Don't talk to me like that. You have no reason to be so fucking disrespectful. I walked in here, da 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 da," and that just made the old lady feel even more validated and being like, "Ha ha ha," and like trying to be all smug, like, "Ooh, look, now I don't have to do shit for you. Now I don't have to do shit because like." Look at her. She's that like some people will instigate stuff and act like they aren't, using that language so that then they can make you look like the bad guy. Now, I understand, trust me, I know. Sometimes I have also told people to go fuck themselves. It's the easiest thing to do in the face of condescension. But sometimes, back in the day, I used to be very stable. So I remember at some point, to make sure that Shazia would even be allowed to step foot in the office again, before we left, I said, "Oh, thank you so much for your time. Like, I do appreciate that, like, I said some sort of shit with a smile, and all I know is that lady was like, "Oh, thank you very much," and I guess she saw me as one of the good ones or whatever, and that made it easier for Chizia to come back next time and just write this off as just a bad day. And I told Chizia after, it's like, "Hey, you can't be yelling at people like that." Like, yes, she was a total cunt. Sometimes the best thing you can do is act classy in the moment, get what you want from a stupid motherfucker like that, and then me and you can talk about how she was the worst, most sour, tasteless cunt in the world. But as of that, if you need those papers and you have to tolerate that lady, then you're gonna have to like grin and bear it for a bit and just ignore it. Or I could teach you how to talk like me. Sadly, she never learned that skill, and she would still go on in her life cursing and threatening random people. Not the best tactic. I know that this way of speaking I have also works very well for abusers. I remember once my mom was purposely giving me the silent treatment. It was very stupid. I remember I worked a job at Chipotle, and then she did the very inappropriate thing where she just kind of stole all the clothes I had out of my bathroom. Not even because it's like we had separate bathrooms. She stole all of the clothes and took them and just put them in her car. I guess her plan was that she was going to surprise me with laundry. But I remember I actually ended up late to work and looking a mess because it's like, ooh, shit, my shirt for Chipotle and my clean pair of jeans were actually in there. And, like, they had a really rigid dress code. And I remember all I did was text her, "Hey, I really appreciate you wanting to do my laundry for me and surprising me, but is it okay if maybe you ask me next time just because I have to go to work in, like, these really dirty jeans now, but I'm not mad at you or anything." She flew off the handle, swearing, 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 cursing, cursing, and then when I got home from my shift and any shift after that for several days, she would always be there just glaring at me and purposely trying to make it tense and ignoring me. She did not like that I enjoyed silent treatment, though, to an extent, because it's like, okay, I could just leave the house without saying goodbye. I could come home without saying hi. I don't have to worry about anything. Like, it doesn't make me feel good, of course, but it's like, okay, you know what? Better than drama. But I remember one day as I was actually leaving the bathroom, she made a big show out of like kicking open the bathroom door and trying to corner me and being like, "So what the fuck makes you think that you can just wake up and just walk past me without saying good morning? How fucking disrespectful do you really think you are? You think you're big now?" I just looked, she never developed tactics to handle her rage issues, but I did, which is why I'm better than her to this day. So I went, and I looked at her and I said, "I would love to talk to you, and I actually do quite enjoy greeting you in the mornings, but I have to ask, do you think that if I were to say hello to you, do you think you would be in a space and mindset where you would want to reciprocate? Because I wouldn't want to do that if I, like, it would just lead to tensions for both of us, I think. I wouldn't want to make you uncomfortable." She hated how well I responded to that so much that she just went, "I ain't going to talk to you when you're like this," and then she just left and slammed the door behind her. But it felt good to know that I fucking won. And then, funny enough, even like like once she got over that shit, she did actually tell me, like, "Tamia, how do you handle your rage so well? Like, how do you just not snap at people? How do you stay so like calm and eloquent about how you do it. And you know you're fucking good at it if your own abuser is like, damn, you know how to handle my abuse pretty well. What's the secret? And I just told her, oh, I take deep breaths. I usually take like, if you just take a few seconds to like breathe in and then just think of a state of calm and then just act like whatever they said did not happen. And then usually formulate your own response. I don't know. I'll go into more detail on this, but I also have to. I think someone called me, so I might have to cut this video a bit short, even though it's already a lot longer than I expected. But if you get the skills of like staying calm, even when people are trying you, practicing how you talk, and like how to hint things or do things in a roundabout manner. Like, for example, my mom was raging because it's like, okay, like she wanted to instigate a fight where then she could like have a reason to hit me or abuse me or be fucked up towards me. Or like, it's like, okay, if I were to cry, then she'd be like, ah, see, you're just some whiny little bitch. You're just a fucking kid. And I'm going to tell everyone in the household how immature you are and stupid and bratty you are and fucking ungrateful. But if I were to actually go off and pop off and be angry, she'd be like, oh my God, Tamia's crazy. She's losing her mind. She's insane. But instead, it's just like, oh, hi. I would like to talk to you. I quite enjoy your presence, but do you feel like you actually want to talk to me? That made her have to realize, shit. She was backed into a corner. It's like, fuck. She just pointed out that I'm the one who's making it hostile. And she said herself that she enjoys engaging with me. Fuck. Now I can't do shit. Like, because that's basically gray walking with a nice layer of kindness to kill them with. It also really helps if you want to, like, help people who you know are in fucked up situations. Like, for example, I remember once I was going to leave my homegirl's house. I was like, ooh, you know what? My ex, like, this guy, Morgan, before we dated, we were just fuck buddies or whatever. It's complicated. And I was like, oh, he said he was going to take me out to this fancy dinner and we'd have a sleepover at his house and do this and that and movies and video games. But now he's just saying all he can really do because he's tired is just like meet me at my house and have sex with me in his fucking stupid minivan and give me leftover pizza from his dad's birthday dinner. Guess I gotta go home and prepare, I guess. Do some stretches. And she was like, what? Girl, no. And I was like, huh? And she was like, well, and she, like, no, she probably could have been like, to me, you stupid bitch. Why the fuck would you do that? Do you hate yourself that much? But instead she went, oh, well, if he's broken promises before and if you keep enabling it and giving him what he wants, then you're never going to get what you want. And he's going to keep doing it because he knows there's not going to be any consequences. And, we could always get pizza. You could get your own pizza. You could just go home and have an orgasm by yourself and probably feel like 10 times better than whatever he's gonna do to you tonight. Like, wouldn't it make you feel really bad after? And then I was like, shit, you right. It felt like a shotgun to the chest. I was like, holy shit, was I almost that fucking stupid? I texted that nigga like, actually, you know what? Go the fuck home. Don't even talk to me anymore. And then he knew from that point on not to fuck with me. And I respected her a lot. She was a very sweet girl, wonderful friend to me. I still care about her a lot, even though, sadly, I don't know. It's one of those things where our friendship ended because while she was very good at being smart towards other people's relationships, not really smart towards the ones she had. And sadly, that's when it's like once your man starts fucking high schoolers behind your back, and then once you find out you keep fucking him, it's like, I can't be your friend, I'm sorry. Also, this technique really works well if you want people to discover things about themselves without even trying. That's why people also tell me I should be an interviewer. And funny enough, that is something I plan on doing more. Actually, pretty soon you'll see those videos. Because I have a natural ability to care about people, and I don't care about... I'll let people know, like, hey, here's a question. And then you don't have to answer it if you don't want, but if you want to, you're in a free, non-judgmental space to do so. And I guess because of that, I'll be able to have, like, 3-hour-long conversations with someone who is just stopping in the kitchen for, like, a single 10 minutes. Just, like, grab a quick snack. And then I once made a braider cry because at some point she was talking about her man that wasn't her man. And she was like, like, we're having a rocky patch, but we'll get it together. I have faith in him. And then I just kind of was like, oh, really? Like, if you don't mind me asking, how so? You don't have to answer that question if you don't want. And then she was like, well, I don't know. I feel like he's just not putting in that much effort. And I said, oh, like, what kind of effort would you say you really want out of a relationship? And you can ask questions like that, so then it sparks them to actually talk about their own goals and motivations and stuff. And then she was like, oh, well, one day, like, I really like a man who's, like, thoughtful, generous, gets me gifts and is really thoughtful and shows he cares about me. And then I said, oh, and do you feel like he does that pretty well for you, would you say? And then she was like, actually, I don't know. Sometimes he doesn't. I was like, oh, how so? She was like, I and I said, and also if I'm making you uncomfortable, you don't have to tell me. But you have full space to talk about it. And then she started talking like, oh, well, I don't know. I wish he had a more stable career. And like, he's a drug dealer. And I was like, oh, okay. And you're okay with that? And she was like, well, no. And then we got to more talking, and eventually she reveals that, they have a long history spanning back. She says some good memories of them just messing around, flirting, being cute, and how once she even got pregnant by him and she was so happy, but sadly she lost the baby. I said, oh no, I'm sorry. Like, how did you lose it? And then she said, oh, it was just a lot of stress. Like, his mother kept stressing me out. I said, oh, and do you think he did a good job at like getting his mother to back off? And then it was like, she was like, no, honestly, I feel like he didn't even care. And then I was like, oh, well, I imagine surely the miscarriage opened his eyes, right? Like, I'm sure, like, that was really hard for the both of you, wasn't it? And then she was like, actually, he didn't even visit me in the hospital. He didn't check in on me. And I was like, oh, well, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. I know you really care about him. Do you think there might have been, do you think he might have had a reason to not be in the hospital? Like, did something big come up? And she was like, no, actually, he just didn't feel bothered. He was just acting like nothing happened, like his world didn't change, but mine did. And then the more we got to talking, like then she brought up other things, like he wasn't really goal motivated. He was selfish, little things. And by the end of the conversation, she even mentioned some shit that I don't think it's even legal for me to repeat. Let's just say she repeated a lot of stuff. And by the end of the conversation, she kind of realized, why the fuck do I even want to be with this nigga? Like, actually, why has every man I've been with been this way? Maybe it's me. And then I just was like, oh, well. And I remember at some point, like, I forget what I said, but at some point, like, she did cry and she was like, oh shit, maybe I'm just fucking stupid. Maybe this is all my fault and I just keep picking the wrong niggas. And I said, hey, no. And this is important. You can't make someone feel like they're fucking stupid for the shit they do. It's not good. Like, it's just gonna make them fall into a depression and not achieve their goals and have low self esteem. So I told her, hey, listen, you have a very big heart and you're full of love. That's not something to ever be ashamed about. You're someone who deserves all the fucking care in the world. You have done nothing really wrong because you have a big heart. The only thing is maybe, there's some tactics or some dating things you could use so that you could have like a certain level of standard so that then you don't let in people who sadly don't deserve your love. Like, I've done that too. I know that if you could let in some dudes because you think they're going to be worthy of love and affection and reciprocate. Whole time they're actually evil, or they will play you, mess you up, or manipulate you. Simply put, like, you have everything you need to be a beautiful, perfect woman. The only thing that I'd say, maybe that could be changed is just figuring out how to discern like the good guys from the bad guys so that then you have an easier time going through dating. And it was great. And then I even showed her like some of the dating pages I follow, gave her some book recommendations to read. I showed her all of that. And by the end of that, we got a lot closer. She was a very sweet braider. But yeah, I guess that's one example. So I'd say if you're able to develop that skill and truly learn how to talk to people in a way that makes them feel comfortable and trustworthy, like they could say anything to you, you can get a lot farther in life. Like, hell, fuck it. I remember once I had this really shitty temp job, and there was this girl who just straight up was like, ooh, look at me. Like, she just was, like, sitting there by herself, and I think she was saying some things to me, and I could tell, okay, the way she's talking to me across this room, I can tell she really wants to socialize. So I just told her, if you want to sit here and talk to me, that's totally fine. Like, I'm just eating my lunch here anyway. I've got all ears if you want to tell me about what you're going through. And she told me a very, very long-winded story about this guy she was with who, like, was a virgin that she had sex with and who she had a massive crush on. But then, like, I did the same thing with her. And then by the end of the conversation, she realized, you know what? You're fucking right. This guy is actually a total piece of shit with no redeeming qualities. Like, I still kind of have feelings for him, but this is... No, I don't want to deal with him anymore. And then I guess I left a really good impression on her.